Alright, it's finally time for me to watch my first Beatles movie. Today I'm going to be watching A Hard Day's Night for the first time, and then when it's done, I'm going to listen to the soundtrack or the album, whatever you want to refer to it as, because I know that I've been told this, that not every song on the album is in the movie, so I'm going to be listening to it after. I know maybe some people are listening to the album before and then the movie, but I'm just I feel like it'd be more interesting in the movie. And when it comes to the songs, I know of course the first chord of A Hard Day's Night. It's one of the most famous ones. I think I know And I Love Her and probably Can't Buy Me Love. When I'm looking at the album, those are the most popular ones, so I probably know them. Sometimes I'll listen to a song and be like, oh yeah, I do know this one. And this one's actually supposed to be one of their best, so I am actually really excited for this and the movie too. It's my first Beatles movie, so I get to see more so visually the Beatlemania, because I've seen some videos on YouTube, but since it was the 60s, there wasn't nearly as many. Today it doesn't even compare, so I am excited. I wonder if this will change my thoughts on the Beatles personalities in a way, because my favorite Beatle is still Paul. It's just ironically, I don't even know this, people tell me in the comments all my favorite songs from a lot of the albums are all Paul songs. For the later albums, he's my favorite, and I don't know, we'll see how it goes here. And this movie actually has a Criterion release as well, so maybe if I really like it that much, I'll finally pick up a Criterion movie. I've been meaning to for a while, but I always, it's oh wow, those are expensive, but it's okay. But I'm excited. I'll be back once the movie and album is over.
Have you any hobbies?
No, actually, we're just good friends.
It's been a hard day's night. Oh my god, this album and movie was so good. I'm going to talk about the movie first here, and I just want to know, for those watching, did you watch the movie first or did you watch the album first? But let's talk about the movie, because it actually surprised the hell out of me. I thought the movie was really good, surprisingly. Not a masterpiece by any means, but it was different in the way that I wasn't sure if it was going to be a story with them in it. I knew they were playing themselves, but I'm not 100% sure of how much was scripted, how much wasn't. There were scenes that were obviously scripted, involving the police. I mean, they can't just walk cameras and hold them in there and have them run in and out of it a million times. But when it comes to the crowds, the crowds of girls and all that, I was some of that, probably a lot of it was not scripted, and I like the way it was filmed because it partially felt like a documentary, but also felt like a movie in the way of, yeah, we have camera here, cut between, you know what I mean? That sounds stupid to explain. And also it was absolutely hilarious. This is the most consistently I've laughed at a movie in a while. Does that sentence make sense? I hope so. Whatever. I'm talking scene to scene, I was actually laughing out loud. All the four of them together, along with the old grandpa or old man, whatever you want to call him, was really funny here. And just the situations they were put in were so funny, and how they're searching for Ringo. And one thing that somebody commented in one of my Beatles videos quite a while ago is that I need to watch the movies to understand their personalities. And I was okay, maybe we'll see. And then when I watch this, I'm oh yeah, 100%. John was so funny here. John Lennon, again, Paul McCartney is still my favorite Beatle. He has a lot of things, but John had me laughing the most. That bath scene was probably my favorite, or at least the funniest. And it was just crashing down. And then when they go to look for him, he walks in with a rope. He's there's a car waiting for us. What are you doing just standing here? And they walk out, and the movie actually focuses on Ringo more in the end, because he kind of gets lost in a way, and they're trying to find him. And Ringo, again, not to diss Ringo, he's amazing, is my least favorite Beatle, but of course he's still one of the greatest musicians ever. And he actually learned from the documentary on Apple Music that he came up with a bunch of the titles, he possibly came up with this one. But Ringo has some of the best scenes here, some of the funniest, and just some of the jokes, especially between him and George. Of course, I mean, I love him, love George too. It was just so funny here. And then of course we have Paul, my favorite Beatle, and just, I don't know, this movie was so much fun. That's just the best way to describe it. It's so much fun. It's not the greatest movie in the world, and it's 90 minutes, it's only an hour and a half or even under that, and it did feel longer. There were parts where the movie did drag, and even on the train at the start, I was okay, let's move to another location. And there were some scenes, but I also loved how they mixed in the music with it, because obviously it's some of the best music of all time. And that opening scene is one of my favorites of all time. I think that perfectly shows Beatlemania and all that. I'm gonna give the movie A Hard Day's Night a 4 out of 5 And there's my quick little take on that. Maybe I'll do a full review one day. But now talking about the album, I mean, it was fantastic and like one of my favorite Beatles albums. Like this is by far my favorite of the early work so far. I feel like it's my favorite will either be this one or Help. Maybe Help will pass it. I guess we'll have to find out. But every single song, everything about it. Like this is like top 3, top 5 for sure. That's how much I loved it. Every single song was great, but let's jump into the set list as always. Of course, it kicks off with the title track, A Hard Day's Night, and yeah, this is probably my favorite song on the album, and I don't care if it's basic or whatever, it's such an amazing song. Of course, it starts off with basically like that iconic chord that I think George Harrison almost like made up himself. I'm not 100% sure, don't quote me on that, please correct me in the comments, but then I was singing at the start, it really gets stuck in your head, and I love how, especially Ringo, I've seen him do this before, but this movie really showed it. He's always just like this, like he does this movement with his head where he like swings it to the side. It's really awesome. They all kind of do, and like Paul does his little kind of head bob thing. They all have like their little things that they do, and this was my favorite. And then it goes into I Should Have Known Better, and this might be the this is the longest song I think on the album. And I mean, when I say one of the best, they're really almost all of them. This one was really great. Same with If I Fell. This one again, there was one that was kind of longer than 2 minutes, and it sounds like when you compare it to music nowadays, you're like, huh? Or even music a decade or two later, you're like, 2 minutes just over, but it was great. And then we have I'm Happy Just to Dance with You, and I'm pretty sure that it was only George singing on this one, which is cool because it was in the movie, and I'm pretty sure I only saw him singing, although again I could be wrong. This is just like my assumptions almost, and that one's insanely catchy, and I love her. Yeah, I mean, again, it's one of the starred ones, but it might be the best one. I do want to learn this one on guitar because it has a very memorable like riff in a way, but it's kind of like when I think about a riff like this, an acoustic riff is different than like an electric riff, but in the way of like Wake Me Up When September Ends by Green Day, kind of like that. Again, some of the best Beatles songs. Tell Me Why. Every time I read that title, I go, tell me why ain't nothing. Anyway, but again, like a great song, and a lot of them they're like short and sweet almost, and they just fly by. This album flies by. This is like the fastest a Beatles album has felt to me. And then Can't Buy Me Love, of course, iconic. I did know this one going into it, like when it started playing, I was like, yeah, I do know this one. And then Anytime at All, another great song. Like there's a few that are not the most memorable, but they're all great songs, so it doesn't really matter. All Cried and Said really gets in your head. Like this one, All Cried and Said, Things We Said Today are kind of like this little batch that aren't my favorite, but they're still really good songs, and it's also probably because they come after Can't Buy Me Love. And then When I Get Home uses repetition a lot, and I think it succeeds in it almost. Same with You Can't Do That. This one, it's kind of funny because when it was like about to play, I was like, this one will be interesting, and then it played and I'm like, well, doesn't surprise me at all. It's a great song. And same with I'll Be Back. I mean, it's just, this is one of their best albums. Like when I look at the list, I don't exactly know where I'll put it. I'll have to listen to it multiple times before I can fully, put it on a spot in the Beatles ranking. And then of course the documentary is always really interesting. That's how I learned that Ringo came up with a lot of the titles, or at least that's what it said. And for A Hard Day's Night, I might have to give it a 5 out of 5. Yeah, and just saying, for anyone who's wondering, a lot of these albums have jumped up, like Abbey Road has jumped up to 5 out of 5, Rubber Soul has. There's a bunch where like I originally gave them 4.5 out of 5, but then I'm like, I don't care, they deserve a 5. I don't know what I was thinking, but yeah, they're some of my favorite albums. This one is just gonna grow on me even more and more, and I'm already giving it a 5 out of 5. I might like Sgt. Pepper's more, and maybe Revolver and all that, but they're just albums that they're all so great that I have to listen to them over and over again. Although this one is really iconic, I think out of the early works, out of the 3 I've listened to so far, this one is by far the best one. I mean, every single song in this album was great. And next up is Beatles for Sale, and this one is interesting. I've heard it's the weakest of the Beatles albums, so we'll see how it goes after listening to one of the best ones. But join me for that one soon, and I have to say, thank you so much for 900 subscribers. My goal originally was to hit 1,000 by the end of the year, and it's May 4th at the time of recording this. Happy Star Wars Day. I mean, that would be yesterday for when you're seeing this, but That means a lot to me, and I have to give a major shout out, two shout outs actually, to Kid Critic. He's the one who texted me and said, "Whoa, you hit 900," and it was as I was watching this movie, so I didn't see it till after. And he told me, and his channel's great, I'll link that down below. And same with Movie Hybrid. You see a lot of his comments on my videos recently. He's a great guy. Like, I DM him a lot. We talk about music, all this stuff. He'll probably have his comment down below this video, but make sure to subscribe to both of them. And I don't normally ask to subscribe, but let's hopefully hit 1K before June 1st, because that is my 3-year anniversary on YouTube. But what do you think of A Hard Day's Night, the album or the movie, or both? Tell me all that in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Over and out.